Okay. Honorable Sibanda seems to be having network challenges there. Let's move on to Lewis.
Good evening,
Hello?
and thank you so much for this
Hello?
opportunity.
Oh,
Um,
Honorable, just hold on. We had lost you there. Somebody else was now speaking.
Okay. So I was saying, when you then about 70% of Zimbabweans that are out of the country because of either economic or political reasons. And it is not by choice that they find themselves out of the country. They are forced by the situation. And when you hear ZANU-PF now talking about sanctions, I mean, Mnangagwa was in Glasgow just a few months ago where they were buying all the type of whisks that they need. He was in Davos a few days ago. I'm not sure whether he's back or he's not back. These guys can go anywhere and shop and enjoy whatever they want to enjoy. But the real fear behind the diaspora vote is because they are aware that most of the people that are in the diaspora are outside because of ZANU-PF's misgovernance and nothing else. And they know that they've got no chance in hell or in heaven for them to convince those people to vote for ZANU-PF. So that's the real reason why ZANU-PF doesn't want diaspora vote. But is it really too expensive for Zimbabweans that are resident outside the country to vote? No, it is not. Just look at how much money they are allocating themselves through the purchases of Zupco buses, through the Pomona Gate. I mean, it's far, far much more than what is required to run an election. And like I indicated earlier on, one of the reasons why the liberation struggle was fought was to ensure that we get one man, one vote, and no single citizen is excluded from the right to vote. That's one of the reasons why most of those gallant fighters died in the liberation for this country. Now we have got a few crooks that are running the country and who want to continue to hold the country to ransom by ensuring that they disenfranchise as many people as possible from voting, not only those that are in the diaspora, but including those that are also in the country. The few thugs and criminals are making sure that they don't want to be in power by the mandate of the majority, but they want to make sure that they are in power by mandate of their criminal activities that they do to rig elections. I think the right to vote by citizens that are in the diaspora is not something that should be debated. If there is anything that we need to talk about currently, especially when we look at the Zesin bill that the Committee on Justice was looking at a few days ago,
Lewis, please go ahead. Honorable keeps dropping.
okay, thank you so much for bringing me back, and I would like to appreciate other people's contributions as I was listening through. I would like to say that national issues, particularly Zimbabwean issues, they require a sober approach where we set aside our emotions and reason in a progressive manner that brings us together as Zimbabwean people. And also, when we approach our national issues, it is my view that we must have an understanding of what is supposed to be done, why is it not done, and who is supposed to do that. With a clear understanding of our constitution as citizens, that is the Zimbabwean constitution. If we are able to do this, then we approach these issues in a better manner, in constructive manner that bring positive results. And it is a fact that each and every Zimbabwean has got the right to vote. I mean, that's a fact, and no one can dispute that. But the question arises on where the voting must take place, how the voting process must take place, and what does our constitution say regarding the voting processes? If we look at the political parties, I would refer to uh, perhaps MDC, Triple C, ZANU PF. They all have structures in the diaspora. And let's not ever think that the fact that political party A is pushing more for diaspora vote or is more vocal when it comes to diaspora vote, therefore they've got the majority in the diaspora. That will mislead us. I think the effort by the Patriotic Front, I think, on pushing for unity and patriotism amongst the citizens is something that is very much welcome, in my view, and I'm sure others would agree with me. But let me look at the diaspora vote as is the subject under discussion. What does our constitution say regarding diaspora vote? Do we have a provision in our constitution, particularly the Electoral Act, to support the issue of diaspora vote? I think if we don't have one, because I think I'm aware that we don't have one, why don't you make sure that those that are responsible for the amendment of the constitution do that so that diaspora vote can be there if people want diaspora vote? Because this cannot be corrected or this cannot be brought about by insulting each other as political organizations or as individuals. This can never be brought about by individuals just wishing that we have diaspora vote. There is need to align our constitution such that it reflects the aspirations of the people of Zimbabwe in an orderly manner with responsible arms of government taking part in making sure that that happens. The second issue that I would want to look at when it comes to diaspora vote is whether our country has got the capacity, particularly Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, has got the capacity to hold elections in diaspora, particularly in the coming election that is a few months away. Those are issues that we need to look at. But most importantly, let's look at whether if we decide to rush diaspora vote, we say we are planning that the constitution is quickly amended and there's diaspora vote. If anything goes wrong, because this will be the first time, and we're looking at 2023 as watershed election, something that we can really agree here. Are we not going to affect or the diaspora vote in an attempt to try and bring it as part of our electoral process? Is it not going to affect the credibility of our elections or the electoral process in such a way that even what we used to do will be rendered something that is not credible and problematic? Those are the issues that we need to look at. And I've got issues with political organizations and individuals who would want to correct or to bring up issues uh, on the eve of an election. We had the elections in 2018, and right now we're in 2022. 2023 next year we're going to have elections. Why is it that people could not aggressively push for diaspora vote from 2018 up until 2022, when we are a few months into another election? You see, whenever we try to exercise our rights as Zimbabwean people, I think we should be sensitive enough to issues that affect everyone and that might affect us as a nation. As I look at other things, people were talking about sanctions to say that there should be an even playing field in the diaspora for elections to take place. And I'll tell you that there are different views when it comes to illegal economic sanctions on Zimbabwe. Some don't believe that they exist, but I personally believe that they exist, and I personally believe that they must be lifted. But even if one is to dismiss the issue of sanctions, we should look at the constitution. What does our constitution say regarding diaspora vote? It is not a question of personal emotions or organizational emotions or organizational expectations. The national constitution and the electoral act is the basis, is our basis of practicing certain rights as Zimbabwean people. I
I would
would
like
like to
to
conclude
conclude
by
by
advising
advising
brothers
brothers
and
and
sisters
sisters
in
in
the
the
diaspora
diaspora
that
that
if
if
they
they
want
want
to
to
vote
vote
in the
in the
next
next
election
election
2023,
2023,
to
to
vote
vote
for
for
whoever
whoever
or
or
whatever
whatever
political
political
party,
party,
to
to
be
be
honest
honest
enough
enough
without
without
misleading
misleading
each
each
other
other
as
as
others
others
may
may
want
want
to,
to,
they
they
must
must
come
come
home
home
and
and
vote.
vote.
There
There
is
is
no
no
way
way
in
in
between
between
now
now
and
and
this
this
coming
coming
election
election
where
where
diaspora
diaspora
vote
vote
is
is
going
going
to
to
take
take
place.
place.
We
We
will
will
be
be
fooling
fooling
each
each
other.
other.
These
These
are
are
processes.
processes.
There
There
are
are
processes
processes
that
that are
should
should
take
take
place
place
if
if
the
the
diaspora
diaspora
vote
vote
is
is
to
to
be
be
introduced.
introduced.
And
And
those
those
who
who
want
want
to
to
vote
vote
for
for
the
the
meantime,
meantime,
brothers and
brothers and
sisters,
sisters,
come
come
home
home
and
and
vote.
vote.
If
If
you
you
don't
don't
afford,
afford,
you
you
cannot
cannot
afford
afford
to come home and vote this time, perhaps you come next time to exercise your right to vote. No one and nobody has got the authority to bar any citizen of Zimbabwe to vote as long as the voting process is taking place according to the laws of this country. And lastly, let me also thank Open Pali and Linet for hosting this platform because it opens up other people's minds and align people's thinking towards reality and towards respect for constitutionalism. We expect a lot of things, we believe in a lot of things, and politically we can never be the same. But the constitution brings us to reality, and that is something that we must respect. Let's not waste time insulting each other. Let's not waste time trying to prove that others are better than the next group of people. But let's look at the constitution. Let's look at what is good for Zimbabwe with a clear understanding that Zimbabwe comes first. Zimbabwe is our country together, and there is nothing, there is no any other country that we look up to except Zimbabwe. So our decisions, our contributions, our emotions, our expectations must be centered in making sure that Zimbabwe becomes better and Zimbabwe gets more and more respect in the world and even beyond, and that Zimbabwe exists forever as a unity, as a people together for the good of everyone. This is my contribution. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much for that. Um, so that is Louis Matutu speaking, and we're going to listen to the next speaker. But what I can tell you is one of the things that Louis Matutu, I know he's from ZANU-PF, but it's one of those things that I was saying previously that uh, you see the problem that we had in 2018, we had elections in 2018, and people were pushing for the diaspora vote during 2018 elections. And then they sat on their laurels, never pushed for it. They were busy with the issues Zema And now that the elections are now upon us, we're less than a year from elections. Now that's when they are starting to say, let's have electoral reforms, let's have diaspora vote. 2020, we were quiet. We did not approach the courts. 2019, we were quiet. We did not approach the courts. So I really feel like if we get into these elections and then uh, people are not going to get the diaspora vote, I think we have already shot ourselves in the foot. Personally, I think that we shot ourselves in the foot. We did not do our due diligence. And it is us to blame for all that. That is my thinking. Let's listen to the next speaker.
and vote. That is a credible argument. That is inconvenient. That is the inconvenience part. Not that the right has been denied. It has not been denied, but there is inconvenience, which is quite a credible argument. But the court also clarified on other issues. They said the according to the constitution and the electoral acts and everything, Zimbabwean elections are polling station based, which is what Professor Ferosu was also mentioning there. That she stays in Mount Pleasant, and although she has got another home somewhere else, she cannot vote. Let's say she goes to Gutu or to Mushingo or another place, she cannot vote there because she has to vote at one polling station where she's registered. That was the court's argument. And the court said the person in London is not different from a person in Mutare who cannot vote in Mutare if he's registered in Mount Pleasant, for example. So there's nothing special about someone in London because he faces the same predicament as somebody who is in Mutare when he's supposed to be voting in Mount Pleasant. That's what the court said. That it's the same thing, it's the same argument. And they went on to explain the philosophy behind that. The philosophy was, if you live in Mount Pleasant, you shouldn't be making a decision for someone living in Mutare where you don't stay. So if you are voting in Mount Pleasant, you're voting for a councillor, you're voting for an MP, that is going to affect your life. And it is very unfair if we're going to take you to go to Chipinge and make decisions for people in Chipinge where you're not going to stay afterwards. You see? So they had to clarify that. The same applies to the person in the diaspora. They cannot vote, even those who are flying home and voting and coming back. To be honest, if this is to be clarified, it's not really fair that I leave Johannesburg, I go to Chipinge and I vote there for a councillor that is going to make decisions and the activities that don't affect me when I'm back in Joburg. It's unfair. That was the argument there, that the person should vote for the decisions that affect them. And it's unfair for someone who is not being affected by the decisions and coming to contribute and putting someone there in power who is not going to affect their life afterwards. That was an argument there. So this issue was addressed, as I'm saying. Then we go on to the politics behind it. There's this generalization that I had, or an emotional argument, as it were, being made that this diaspora vote is being denied because Mnangagwa or ZANU-PF is afraid that they will lose the election and stuff. That is quite a crappy argument. It's baseless, let me say that. It's baseless because people in the diaspora, whoever they are, they have got different political affiliation. Nobody really owns the diaspora vote. Some of us, if the diaspora vote comes here in Joburg, where I stay, I will vote for ZANU-PF. I will not vote for the opposition. And so are many people that I know. They will not vote for them. So nobody really owns the diaspora vote until it has been there. It's just a baseless argument per se. But also on the politics of changing the constitution and the laws, because that's what the constitutional court said. They said, we as a court, we interpret the law. We don't make the law. The law is made in parliament and everywhere. That's what they said clearly. So they said, if you want the diaspora vote, you have to amend the constitution. That's what they said. And if you look at the opposition who are always crying about this diaspora vote, they're the same people who were part of the constitution making process. So they're not immune to this. It's not like ZANU-PF made the constitution. The constitution was made in 2013 during the GNU. They contributed to the process. They endorsed the constitution. So they cannot come here and try to pretend that the constitution that disallows the diaspora vote is a ZANU-PF baby. It's not. It was a joint thing. It was bipartisan, if we were to use that word. So they contributed to the constitution. They participated in the constitution making process. They are part of the whole thing. Whatever consequences came out of it, they should own it. That's it. But if we want the diaspora vote, it's possible. The court said that it's possible. It's possible if you amend the constitution. But we have been hearing the same people who say they want the diaspora vote are the same people who go around saying they don't want the constitution to be amended. So they actually love it, as it were, as it is. So we are happy with that. But again, the politics and democracy, is about the will of the majority. You know, in 2018, not everyone voted for Mnangagwa for ZANU-PF. Even your councillor, not everyone voted for your councillor. But once he wins by majority, he becomes the councillor of everyone. That's how democracy works. So if the constitution is going to be changed or the laws are going to be amended, it is ZANU-PF that has got that ability to say per se. So the opposition should not shout at ZANU-PF. They should not demand from ZANU-PF. If anything, they can negotiate with ZANU-PF and say, hey guys, can we negotiate this? Come with better contributions, come with better arguments, and negotiate. In the end, it's not what an individual wants per se. It's what the majority wants. That's how democracy works. So if the majority wants Mnangagwa as president, he will be president, even if there are people who don't like him. And that's how democracy is. That's the flow of democracy per se. It's not by consensus. Is by the will of the majority. So it seems in Zimbabwe, the majority actually don't want the diaspora vote, because those who say they want the diaspora vote are failing to convince people to vote for them. If they really had a better argument, people are going to say, oh, this is a nice thing, let's vote for these guys because they're going to bring the diaspora vote. But it seems the majority does not want it, or the majority is not concerned about it. That is a fact, or that is a reality that we should all embrace. Then it goes on to, Honorable Sibanda was saying, it's a right. It's a right that comes automatically when attain the age of 18. That is not the right argument. Yes, it's a right, fair and simple, but it's not a forced right. I have the right to vote. Every 18-year-old or 20-year-old in Zimbabwe has the right to vote, but they have a choice to exercise it or not. That's the other thing. It's not a mandatory right, or it's not mandatory to vote in Zimbabwe. You can attain the age of 18, become 20, 30, and still don't want to vote. No one is going to force you. It's a fact. However, the right does not leave you because you have refused to register to vote. You still have the right. You just refuse to exercise it. The same way that the court explained that someone in London still has got the right to vote in Zimbabwe. Just that they should follow the procedure is outlined in the Constitution, is outlined in the Electoral Act. They should follow it, and they can. If they follow that procedure and someone denies them the right to vote, then the court can intervene and say, hey, this person registered to vote in Mount Pleasant or in Mutare, they want to vote and you are denying them that right. So no one can say that. No one can say that. Then the last issue that I want to address is about the credibility of the electoral process, and also the voters' role, as some people have been arguing that it has been tempered, it has been what. To be honest, I don't understand why Temba in Lupane, for example, is interested about my details of where I'm registered to vote. That is quite ridiculous. The voters roll should be an individual thing, that if I go onto the voters roll, I check my details, I see if they are correct or not. Mine, not anyone else, mine. I haven't seen up to now, when we're hearing this Pachedu whatever thing that was happening, I haven't seen any one voter coming online or anywhere and saying my details were changed. Nobody said that or complained about that. It's other people who are complaining about other people's details, really. So in other countries, this thing is actually illegal, where Pachedu has got my ID number, my address, my phone number, and splashing them online. That's not right. I should be able to go check that I registered in Mutare at this polling station. Are my details still correct? Yes, they are. If they are not correct, there's a process, by the way, to check or to correct that, to go to ZEC and say, hey, I see my details have changed. Even if I change my own address, I can go to them and then correct my details. So the credibility of the voters' roll should be an individual thing. Not that is another person is speaking on my behalf about the credibility of my own details when I'm not even complaining about those details. If there's anything to be changed about the law, it is that no one else should be having access to my details. I should check my own details and be happy. If I'm unhappy, I should have a a way of correcting that. That is very important. Then somebody mentioned the European Union and everything. That's nonsense, by the way. Why should the European Union people comment on our elections or electoral process and their recommendations? They gave advice or recommendations. That's not mandatory for us to take them. It's our choice to take them as a people, and as a population. We elected representatives who can make those decisions on our behalf. Not every one of us can make the decisions, but we have elected representatives who make the laws for all of us. And if they agree with their recommendations, they are adopted. If they don't, we can just leave them there. So they recommended. It's not like they're superior or they're what. We never recommend anything to them, by the way. So they don't have any of that. In conclusion, the debate about the diaspora vote, it's valid, it's credible, and the most credible argument there is the convenience. Because to be honest, there are people who already vote at the embassies there. If you are outside Zimbabwe on national duty, you have been sent out by the country to work for the country, you can vote at the embassies. But when you do that voting, you can only vote if you are registered in Zimbabwe at a polling station in Zimbabwe. That's a fact that we cannot go around. Those people who vote at the embassies now, they vote at the embassies only if they are registered in Zimbabwe at a polling station in Zimbabwe. If you live in Mutare and you are registered in Mutare, you cannot go to Masvingo and vote on the voting day. It cannot happen. So that's not, if the person in Mutare cannot enjoy the flexibility of voting wherever they want, why do you think someone in London should enjoy that flexibility? It should be a universal right for everyone in Zimbabwe, or every Zimbabwe, to say, if I'm in Mutare on voting day, I can vote there. If I'm in Bulawayo on voting day, I can vote there. It should be everyone. So there's nothing special about anyone in London or in any other geographical location. If the people in Zimbabwe cannot enjoy the same flexibility. This is a valid argument, and it's a very credible argument that we can make. However, if we want the diaspora vote, we can have it through amending the constitution. So the people who want it should talk about amending the constitution first, not just buying and saying,
pinpoint which sections of the constitution need amending as you're speaking.
Which point of the, which what?
Just hold on, Beauty. Could I please round up?
Yes. I hear Beauty is talking about the constitution, what, and the electoral acts. As I say, the constitutional court is the one that makes decisions on the constitutional matters. They already said that the constitution, as it stands, it does not allow that. That's what they say.
That is not what that judgment said.
No, that's not true. That's not true, Kudai. Please don't lie to us.
Please stop interrupting.
Can I speak? Can you guys just keep quiet while I'm speaking?
Please round up. You were rounding up.
Yes, I'm rounding up. Yes. They said if the diaspora vote is to be there should be an amendment of the constitution. That's a fact. They say that. They also said there should be a change of the law, electoral law, and everything. That's what they said. It's a fact. And it's not a new matter, as I said. That is my contribution. And the people who are being emotional about it, they should stop. If they want to change the constitution or to change the laws, there is a very easy process. Convince the voters. They vote for you. You get a majority in parliament. You can change any law. You get a 2/3 majority. You can change the constitution. You win the presidents and all arms of government. You can change anything. That's the only way. If they can't do that, it means their argument is not popular. It means their argument is a minority argument. And in a democracy, the will of the minority is that way. That's the bad thing about democracy. We can ignore it and move on. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Kusai. Let's have a Beauty, then Smartest.
All right. Thank you so much. All the people were speaking. Supposed to pinpoint the clause and the section of the constitution that needs an amendment, and they clearly do not have a clause or a section to be amended it is not listed. And for them to run with a judgment that also failed to clarify what exactly needs amending in a constitution that is there means kuti the same judges, they ended up saying kuti it's about costs. That was their final judgment. Kuti people in diaspora are not going to vote because of the costs that are involved in allowing them to vote, which the government could not fund. That was the overall submission of the court, because they could not relay it on a constitutional amendment, because they could not even pinpoint the section of the constitution that needed amending for them to go with that theory. And then the other point is that judgment was in 2018. It never said diasporans have no right to vote. It actually clarified that diasporans have a right to vote. They have that right, and ZEC is the one that needs to allow the registration of all diasporans to vote, just like ZEC has the mandate to make sure every Zimbabwean who's over the age of 18 is registered to vote. So the issue is not on the law, the issue is on ZEC and ZEC carrying out its mandate as it is mandated to do under the Constitution. So the challenge with diaspora vote is to get ZEC to do its job, which is also a challenge on the ground, as we have all noticed. Many people are turning 18 years of age and are still not registered to vote because ZEC is failing its mandatory its mandate according to the Constitution to register people wherever it is convenient to get them registered to vote. And in terms of voting rights, yes, for per polling station, but that principle is overridden by a clause. I think it's section 78 of the Electoral Act, which states that those that cannot vote on the day at a specific polling station shall be allowed the right to do a postal voting. So if postal voting is allowed, it means any diasporan, wherever you can vote via the postal system of voting. So when they say kuti you can't vote kuma embassy and all this others, they're lying, because people who work, they actually vote using the postal vote. All service people vote using the postal system. So what stops diasporans voting using the postal system? Nothing, except them saying it is expensive. But then when we go to check and say, is it really that expensive for them to carry out a postal vote for all diasporans? It comes out as an issue. It comes out as a political choice issue. So basically, we're being denied our right to vote by the people in government currently, because they have not allocated sufficient funds to get us registered to vote and to allow us to cast our votes via the postal system of voting, which is all constitutional in the Constitution of Zimbabwe. So the real reason that there is no diaspora vote is just simple. ZANU-PF does not want Zimbabweans to vote, just like they are denying other Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe the right to vote, to register to vote, by not issuing IDs to people, by coming up and saying, kuti, the number we've come to register is enough for the day, we can't register anymore today. Those are the same tactics. They are denying us our right to vote, simple as. And we're being denied this by a government that is run by the political party called ZANU-PF, full stop. There's no other issues there. Otherwise, in any other functional system, we would be voting right now, because it is up to every citizen every national citizen to determine the outcomes of governance within their country of nationality. So every person in Zimbabwe, as much as it is our job to ensure that Zimbabwe develops and grows, it is also our job to determine who governs us. No matter where we are, no matter what we do, what matters is, good, are you a national of Zimbabwe? Do you have a nationality constitutional right to do something? And our right is to have inclusivity of all nationals in the all Zimbabwean nationals having equal constitutional rights because we are all citizens of that country, and therefore tikunyimwa inclusivity and tikunyimwa equality. So they are now preferential citizens and they are other citizens, which is what is happening in our country. That's why you see poverty because no one is paying attention to inclusivity and equality of all citizens of Zimbabwe in whatever capacity, in whatever action that is going on. So that is the problem with Zimbabwe right now. We need all of you on this platform to fight for inclusivity and equality of all citizens in Zimbabwe, to fight for the rights of all citizens in Zimbabwe to be equalized and included in whatever they are doing. And it is our right to determine who governs us. And it is also our right to challenge those that govern us when they deny us access to our rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beauty, for that. Will they please come through? I know I'd asked you to wait. Please come through. I hope you haven't forgotten what you wanted to say.
Yes, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Lynette. I just wanted to address the issue that was raised by Honorable Dona. And I think Kuzai also raised the same point that, you know, if you want to change the law, you've got to have two-thirds majority, etc., etc. We are in a catch-22 here, where I have said, and many people, not only me, but other people outside have also said the election process is not free, fair, and credible. So if it's not free, fair, and credible, ZANU-PF will win it. And then ZANU-PF will turn around and say, oh, if you want to change anything, you must win. We cannot win unless the election is free, fair, and credible. And this issue of we don't need the European Union to comment on our election process. It doesn't matter. We ourselves, ordinary Zimbabweans on this platform, they've also said the election process is not free, fair, and credible. And you still ignore us. So it's not a question of somebody outside saying it. It is a fact that the election process in Zimbabwe are not free, fair, and credible. This issue of one man, one vote, this is what we fought for. That was changed by the time come the 1980 elections. Those elections were not free, fair, and credible. It was not one man, one vote. ZANU-PF made it abundantly clear that if ZANU-PF does not win the election, the Bush war will continue. The people voted to end the Bush war. That is not one man, one vote. I think it's insulting the way we keep treating our own people with such total disrespect. And even on this media, we get patronized or emotional. Don't get emotional. What is wrong is a situation where you, the people in power, keep riding roughshod over everybody. And then you have the audacity of patronizing us as, oh, you're not patriotic, or you're getting emotional. The right to a meaningful vote is fundamental. There is bad governance in Zimbabwe because we are stuck with a regime that we cannot change. And I think that is what is at issue here. And I think that is what we should be addressing. And yes, I would like to emphasize, I think I made that point earlier on. And one of the problems we are having here is that we not only have the problem with ZANU-PF, but we have a problem with the opposition itself. Because by continuing to participate in an electoral process that is so flawed, that you don't even have a verified voters roll, that you have denied, according to one of the speakers here, 4 million people the vote, who compared to the last election where 5 million people voted. That is unbelievable. That is an unbelievable amount of people to be denied the vote. How can that election process be free, fair, and credible when you are denying so many people? And why are you in the opposition participating and giving that process credibility? Thank you, Lynette.
Thank you very much for that. Let's move on to Smarters, then Padare.
Oh, Lynette, I think it was me before that, but that's fine.
Yes, no, it's you. Smarters first, then Padare.
Thanks so much, Lynette. Good to see everyone here. I've been missing in action. I was having problems with my old account, but this is now my new account. And first and for all, ndangoti nematambudziko kune maZimbabweans ese, Dr. Magaisa. Then moving on, Lynette, I wanted to respond to Dexter Nduna's contributions first, maybe before I move on to what Kudzai was saying. And I thought it was very important for me to agree with my brother Nimrod. Yes, I understand there was a point where you had to stop him, but I did not see the attack, especially when he was mentioning something to someone that we would call an honorable. So when you look at our legislators or our, the people that were voted into parliament. So when they come through to our spaces, to these spaces, this is an opportunity for us citizens, to ask them. And when we ask them questions, we ask them based on the moral ground. Because when the honorable was making his submissions, you mentioned things to say, I'm coming here. He said, I'm speaking as a legislator. So I wanted to extend and say, you are not just speaking as a legislator, but he is also speaking as someone who confessed to have killed many people, some of which he doesn't even know their names. And he made these confessions in parliament, right? And we are asking about the diaspora question, something that has to go through that same parliament. And secondly, this is someone who is in parliament today, not because of the majority vote, but because of the mistake that was made by the electoral commission. So we've got this diaspora process, but we have noticed that we have got an electoral commission that always has got a tendency of favoring the incumbent, right? When they make mistakes, and those mistakes are always favoring ZANU-PF. So when we notice this trend and now try to tie down with the argument that we are having today, we seem to have, a trend that's very disturbing. Then moving on to what my brother Kudzai was presenting, our constitution, Lynette, with all respect, it doesn't need to be amended because the constitution says, it stipulates that all Zimbabweans have the right to vote. Where we have a problem, we do have a problem with our electoral laws that are not aligned to 2013 constitution. So now when you listen to Kudzai, when it comes through to stresses and say, the constitution needs, to be amended, this is the constitution that, the MDC and all these people they took part of. He's trying to mislead everyone. The constitution doesn't need to be amended. That's the first important. That's a very important point to note. Then the second thing, our electoral laws, they need to be aligned to our constitution. But we know ZANU-PF, they've got this appetite for amending the constitution. So you notice that we are not surprised today that just the 4 years or 5 years that they've been in the office, they've managed to amend the constitution more than 400 times. Okay, so now when they come through to our spaces and try to preach this gospel of amending the constitution, we should also understand them. But moving on, let's look at the region and why are we making noise about the diaspora vote? We've got countries, our neighboring countries. Let's not talk about the US. Let's not talk about China and what's happening in East Africa or in Egypt, right? We've got countries around Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, Namibia. They've all extended voting to their diasporas. And it's because of the benefits that are coming through and also the benefits that they are seeing on the ground. And why did they implement these moves? They did because of the recommendations that came on that came through after their, the electoral process. And the same recommendations, we do have them in Zimbabwe. Right? Before we even moved to the EU, after 2018, that ESN, they made recommendations to say, I think the country, it's high time that the country should also extend of voting, to those citizens that are in the diaspora, not just that, and also citizens that are in prison. And this has got nothing to do, Lynette, with convenience. Because when you're going to limit the reason to say, it's convenient for us to have people voting, from London, or we are talking about feasibility here. Because there's no way that you can say someone who is in Kurubi there, your polling station is in Budiro. So during the election time, you are supposed to go to Budiro to vote. We are looking at the feasibility. It's not just the convenience. We are looking at the practicality. Is it practical for someone to, to come from prison to go and vote? Not then look at SADC, the electoral mission report. They also recommendations. They said consideration to be given to voting by Zimbabweans in the diaspora. The Commonwealth also weighed in. So Mnangagwa is always talking about re-engagement, right? When you want to re-engage, you look at the reports that are coming through from different observers. Why do we have the observer missions in the first place? We are asking, we do have them, so that when we go out there and try to re-engage, when we try to rejoin the, the Commonwealth, we've got references, right? We've got people that can vouch for us and say, we made these recommendations after 2018, and this is what Mnangagwa did, right? And the other point, Lynette, that we also need to mention is, after these recommendations, remember Mnangagwa in 2018, he appointed an interministerial committee on electoral reforms, and they were supposed to look at his recommendations. If it was for convenience, why would Mnangagwa do that? If it was just, it was just convenient. But we also understand that this regime, that if when we see soldiers killing people in Harare, they will appoint a commission. When we go back to 1980s, after the Gurukhu round, there is a commission. And the trend or the conclusion that we can pick from commissions is, from these commissions is, they know that there is a need for them to do something, but they also need to window dress and cover up. And the only thing, or the only modus operandi that they have, they will appoint a commission. That commission comes, with recommendations. They put recommendations, and they will ignore those recommendations. We need diaspora voting, not because it's convenient, but it is the right of us. It is our right, our constitutional right, to make sure that everyone votes. Currently, our electoral forms, our electoral laws, they detect that our elections are polling based. So you have to move to Belvedere, you need to go back to Warren Park for you to be able to vote. But we've got people that are voting through our embassies. So which means in terms of the setup is there already. What's lacking is just the political will. What's lacking is just, the government that respects its citizens, the government that respects democracy, the government, that's for development. Once we have that, we should not be having problems. We cannot raise points around costs. We cannot talk about people not contributing to the fiscus. When you notice that the diaspora remittance, look at the numbers, right? The figures are always growing from 1 billion 2 years ago to 1.4 billion. And you look at a proportion to our national budget, you will see now the role that is being played by the citizens that are living in the diaspora. So the only thing that you can do for them, just to appreciate these efforts, is just say, we are opening space to you so that your voice can be counted. Because they cannot say it's not fair for someone to vote for a president while he's in London, but he also expects that president to receive a remittance from that person, from that. That's just not fair. But we do understand them. So that would be my argument. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Smarters. Padare, please go ahead.
Hello, Madam Moderate. You see, the problem I have, the problem I truly have, is a diaspora that thinks they are wiser than people that are sitting as a majority. It's actually crazy to sit here and listen to some of these things when these people put up these things. They celebrate all shit, and yet you don't hear what these people are talking about now. We can't.
Right. There is an argument that has been put across, and I want to note some few points here. Number one, the first one point that I want to pick up is that Kudzai TC spoke about the amendment of the Constitution, and according to a small snippet that I've just given you, it shows us that there is no need for the amendment of the Constitution because one man, one vote is enough. And I've been just doing some research whilst listening to some of the contributions that are being made. And one of the things that I also picked up is that we are the only country in SADC and our surrounding that is not doing diaspora vote. Why is it that? Is it that we cannot afford? That is not true. Under the doldrums of the economy that we are in as Zimbabwe, number one, we are only South Africa and Zambia in terms of the GDP is ahead of us. I was just making some comparisons here. If you look at the GDP of Namibia, it's around $12.80 billion. That is the latest one. The GDP of Malawi is 12.80 as well. The GDP of Botswana is on 17 billion, which is ahead of us. The GDP of Namibia is on 11 billion. The GDP of Zambia is on 19.32 billion. The GDP of Mozambique is on 14.02 billion. So we have Botswana, South Africa, and Zambia that are ahead of us. All of them, they are doing diaspora vote. Malawi is below us. Comoros is actually on 1.2 billion GDP, but they are affording to do diaspora vote. And then which other country that they okay? So we can see Zimbabwe is on 16.77 GDP. In 2020, it was around 20 point something GDP. So we have that. And then we have the remittances that are coming from the diaspora that are on over $1.5 billion in a year. We're not talking of another billion that is coming in the form of, I can give you, for example, the billions that are coming in form of unremitted currency. When someone wants to send things to Zimbabwe, they can use someone who is already in Zimbabwe. They can say, you need to buy, I need to buy probably clothes. I need to buy maybe bags of cement. All right. With your bags of cement, please, with your money that you have there, maybe you've got 500, we have got $500. I want to buy bags of cement that are worth $500. Can you buy me those? And I will buy you, it's either it could be jacket or could something. I'll buy you some clothes and then I'll send them, right? And those clothes, they can come probably in a bag and they won't be declared. So these are some of the out, or I can say offshore or out of the system remittances that are coming to Zimbabwe. Then there are other remittances that also come to Zimbabwe, which are in form of people that are coming with Malaicha, people that are coming with buses. Someone is coming with a truck and they have money in their possession. Some people, they can have lots of money. They can have $5,000, $20,000, and it does not reach the taxman or does not reach the government official. So those are some of the things. And we're not even talking of the goods that are coming in Zimbabwe in terms of money that are being sent by people that are in the diaspora. Surely it is a disservice for them not to have their voices heard. Excuse me. So those are some of the things that I'm saying. And then it is very easy. There's one thing that Kudzai also mentioned, that people are actually already doing diaspora vote, in the sense that they are people who are there on national duty, like ambassadors, like air marshals, like policemen that are working in the embassies, and then there are people that are working as soldiers at the Zimbabwe houses across different places of the world. Those people, they vote. The ambassadors, they vote, and their secretaries and everyone that are working there, the consular generals, they are also voting. So all of them, they are voting in the consulate or at the embassy. But why is it that it's only extended to them, not to the citizens at large? Whilst people can get their passports in all those different areas. And then there was an argument about the issue of the that the voting in Zimbabwe is per polling station, which is easy because people are doing postal vote. In one of the submissions that was done was that people are doing postal vote. Postal vote, which is done by the police, which is done by the soldiers, which is done by prison services, which is done by people that are in prison. So if I am from Chendambuya or I'm from Chirumanzu, my vote can still find Chirumanzu as long as I vote. If the postal vote can be done maybe 10 days before the actual elections or 2 weeks, so that the votes can then be posted. Or since the command center will be in Harare, the votes that have been collected and they are at the embassy, they are distributed amongst all the polling stations, and it can then be said, Pachendambuya pakavota vanhu 300, and we have other votes that are coming from Chendambuya that will constitute maybe other 70 or other 80 who are from Chendambuya polling station. So there is no such a thing, and it is a lame excuse. Obviously, it was given by the Constitutional Court, but that is not something that cannot be doable. It is doable. Hence, I have spoken about our neighbors who have a lesser GDP than us, but they are managing to vote. Anyway, you can continue watching, listening to this space that is actually on Twitter right now. So, but now I have to end this broadcast but I think you found something that is interesting. Go on Open Pali on Twitter and you can find this space. But if you want to listen to the whole entirety, what I'll do is Open Pal is recording this. I can put it up as an audio and you can listen to it. But at the moment of this moment in time, because of fair use, I have to end here at this time. But I'll continue listening and I'll give you my feedback at the end of the day. But thank you so much. We're going to be having all of this because some of the discussions, mastery of the discussions, they are now happening on Twitter, and it will be also important for me to jump in and hear what they are saying. So it is also important for us to be exploring that other space where Twitter people are. Because why do people want to go on Twitter? Because it's like radio. You can be on Twitter whilst you're in your blankets, and you can contribute whilst you're in your blankets. So that's my thinking. And I am out. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.